The TikTok ban inches closer, Christmas ideas for everyone's favorite gray hoodie wearing social media mogul, and we dive back in the mailbag. All this and more on today's Strong Coffee Drip. Hi again, everyone. I'm Brian from Strong Coffee Marketing. We've survived the fall rush, we've survived Black Friday, and now we're back with 2 more episodes this week and next week before we break for the holidays. As always, I'm joined by the president and CEO of our Vancouver office, Duncan. Hi, Duncan. How are you?
Good, thank you.
And fellow Wendy's enthusiast, even though he often gets his spicy chicken sandwiches wrapped in lettuce, which is a travesty in my opinion. Ian, good to see you.
And you.
Yeah. And Duncan, good timing. We were just before we went live talking about how you want to change your title to something cooler that involves AI. So now I just named you the CEO and president of our 2-person work from home Vancouver location. So that's a big step.
I'm going to have more room in my signature is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Like it's 2-liner. It's going to be a 2-liner.
That font's getting smaller.
Yeah, it's just keep stacking them. Wow. So lots going on since we all met last. I guess one of the big things on our end is we've slowly been converting our office into a studio. We've had a couple of events in there, which have been exciting. And I think directly related to the podcast, we're now working on a bit of a setup to do some streaming in there. So don't be surprised in the new year if myself and maybe Ian or just myself, we'll see how we want to do it, might have a brand new backdrop behind us. So that's exciting. Ian and I spent way too much time trying to sync up a lav mic and a camera one day, going by millisecond, which was a fantastic time, but we managed to do it eventually. That's kind of the big news. The other one that I was going to mention to you guys, we're not going to announce the winner of the drip draft, not because I don't know who the winner is. I know who the winner is through the voting. The ensemble, if you will, for the drip draft winner, I took to the office and I forgot it there. So you guys don't have yours yet either, so we can't announce the winner till you have them. So we'll do that in the new year, although I know who has won, and rightly so who won. So that's cool. Christmas is coming up. Duncan, what are you doing for Christmas? You're not coming here, are you? We're not going to see you?
Well, you won't see me. I actually am coming to Edmonton briefly, but mostly just to drop off my dog and drop off presents and see my parents for a day. But I'm off to Mexico for Christmas.
Wow.
I'm going to Zihuatanejo, my first destination Christmas.
I've always wanted to do one of those because I think it would be cool to see Christmas lights like on a palm tree or Christmas lights when there's no snow. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Honestly, I'm just kind of relishing the break because there won't be any work, and I rarely get vacations where I don't have to look at my computer, and I feel like this might be one of them.
Hallelujah. I'm going to be the same way. Can't wait. Ian, you're more local, kind of like me, staying around here.
The standard family thing, eating too much and relaxing.
Probably going to spend a day lined up at the new Krispy Kreme location here in Edmonton. Get some donuts.
Big news.
Yeah. It's quite close to our office, but it opened on Tuesday, and apparently they had police out on the road directing traffic because the line was so big for the drive-through. And they put it in the same parking lot. There's some Edmonton story if you don't live here. They put it in the same parking lot as our first ever Chipotle. So you've got Chipotle, which opened a month or so ago, and now you've got Krispy Kreme and a Firehouse Subs, which we've had before, but they're fairly new in Edmonton. So it's kind of the trifecta of newer restaurants in Edmonton, which creates all sorts of problems. So, I want to give Krispy Kreme a try. I've had it before, but I don't think I'll be standing in line for it, especially because it's cold outside. But Ian, maybe you and I can spend a day over the break and reminisce in a line while we wait for donuts. Yeah, it'd be a great time. Really looking forward to it.
Sounds good.
All right. As mentioned, we've got 2 episodes left this year, so I think we'll save our bold predictions for next week. Although, Duncan, you're not here next week, are you?
I think you booked it while I'm traveling, so I think I might not be in it.
No bold predictions for you. So
instead, I think you booked it for Tuesday, and that's the day I'm flying to Edmonton. So,
okay. Sorry. We'll maybe get a bold prediction from you at the end, or we'll wait until the new year when you can have a bold prediction about the year that's already started, which is still bold. Let's look back at the year that was. lots happening this year. Stuff, there was an election and, new tools on the horizon, all sorts of things going on. Guys, what's your biggest marketing story from the past 12 months? Ian, we'll start with you. Your biggest marketing story.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about the year as a whole over the last 12 months, as he said, and my story actually goes back to the start of the year, back to February, and it was more of a marketing fail rather than a marketing story. It's Wonkagate, which was back in February in Glasgow, Scotland. There was an event, I believe it was called Willie's Chocolate Experience, I think was the official name of it.
Right there, there's something wrong by having it as that.
Yeah, it was an unofficial. It was a Willy Wonka themed event, but unofficial, so they couldn't use the word Wonka or anything like that. And to promote this event, they used some AI tools to generate these really dreamlike, immersive sort of images. And when all the parents and children got there, they found out it was essentially an empty warehouse with a guy in a costume. And I think it was £35 to get in, which is about 50 Canadian dollars.
So they set themselves up for a good quality event, only to drastically disappoint.
Absolutely, yeah. The marketing, if the event had been a good event, arguably you could say their marketing was on point. It really captured people's attention and imagination, and a lot of people did show up. But I think, like I say, it's a marketing fail because over-promising and under-delivering is obviously never something you want to do in our line of work. You sort of want to manage people's expectations and deliver the experience or service that you promise. So yeah, that was my thought on a story of this year, because it was quite a local thing, but it blew up worldwide. So.
And you're right, like the images, the AI generated images, it was like Disney-like. Like you saw this and you're like, I would want to go. This is better than where Willy Wonka probably lived. Like Willy Wonka, or it can't be Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka would love to live there. But
sure.
yeah, and then to see what it was it was special.
I'll just wait for the Netflix documentary to come out, and then
there will be one. It was dubbed as like the Scotland's Fire Festival.
Yeah, yes, I'm not surprised.
So I'm sure, there will be something about it. But yeah, I guess the other thing is, we talk a lot about AI, obviously, on this podcast, and like I said, managing expectations. But just because these tools are there and you can create these amazing graphics from essentially nothing, doesn't mean that's always the best course of action.
Yeah, no, and there's still imperfections in them as well. And I watched a video just the other day where there was somebody walking right through the middle of it, a professionally done AI video, and the person had 3 hands. So, I mean, I don't know. There might be a person out there with 3 hands, but I've never seen that person. And shout out to you, Ian, for bringing Scotland into the mix. I don't think you do enough of that on the podcast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had the canned haggis thing last year, but to really bring it around again, awesome job. Great job.
Absolutely.
Duncan, I think yours kind of ties into AI too. Your biggest story of the past 12 months.
Well, I mean, I was going to say I think this election cycle was very interesting, especially with I'm not trying to remember, but was TikTok really in the mix for the previous election? I think it might have been too, but not as
kind of, but not like this.
So, I mean, I would say that the marketing battle for elections was pretty interesting, but I still think that probably the biggest influence to our industry as a whole would be ChatGPT and all of these AI tools. So you have Gemini, which is okay, but you have some of the built-in Copilot with Microsoft. I think it's fundamentally transforming how marketers do business. Whether the customer or endpoint sees it or not, I think most marketing agencies are using it to some degree. So it's changing how we write content. It's changing how we do reporting. It's changing the amount of work and output that we can do as a marketing agency. it's starting to feed into imagery and photorealistic imagery. There's also video coming. So, and actually pretty believable video. I think if you see how quickly they've been able to, the original, like, I'm pretty sure the original AI videos, remember there was like Will Smith eating chicken?
Mm-hmm.
And it was jumpy. It didn't look good at all. They didn't know what they were doing. And now they can actually, like with Sora, they can do some pretty realistic videos. They've started to make movies using AI. Just for how quickly this is advanced. I mean, ChatGPT just came out in 2022, like the end of 2022, and how quickly it's advancing. It is already upsetting the marketing industry. As a whole, I think the later versions of ChatGPT now, the 4.0, even the voice, I think it's called voice preview. Anyway, it's amazing. It does perfect transcribing. It can summarize. There's a whole bunch of impacts to our industry, and I think any industry that actually deals with a lot of data is probably leveraging this in some way, shape, or form. You look at GitHub. The amount of people using GitHub now has fundamentally dropped since ChatGPT was launched. People are just using ChatGPT to code. This is changing a ton of businesses in ways that we're still kind of learning, but I think it's mostly happening behind the scenes. And that's why a lot of people don't think about it. It's just because they don't really see it happening. But I think in our industry especially, it's really been a new pillar for changing the way that we do things.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And some people will be like, "Oh, it's another tool in the tool belt," kind of thing. I hate that expression, by the way. I hate that. It's not just a tool, like you said. It's a pillar. It's like a legit. It's like fundamental. It's not a fun side piece. It's the big show. Quick roundtable before we move on. I'll share mine too. When you use something like ChatGPT, do you thank it after it gives you an answer?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So like there's the one that you can do on your phone where you can just chat back and forth to it.
Yeah.
I think it's the other thing. They made it sound pretty realistic. Like it's not like, remember, like I don't want to say it because it's probably going to go off, but the Google one that's in all of our homes, that one still sounds like a robot. And frankly, the fact that I have to repeat myself 13 times to tell it to turn off the bedroom lights that it knows exists, but it says, "Ooh, you haven't set that up yet." I'm like, come on, I've set it up. So this thing works without fail, but unfortunately it doesn't control my lights yet. So.
But do you thank it if it does something good?
Yeah, but I also swear at it if it does something bad. But that's more the Google one. Like I don't really swear at this one. I swear at the Google one.
I'm friendly with mine because I know one day it's going to know so much about me, and if it ever decides that I don't really like this guy,
that's what my partner says. You have to be nice to the robot, and I'm like, well, that robot should learn to turn off the light because it really has one job, and it can't even do that right.
And Ian, you're too friendly. I guarantee you thank ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think it's much more like Duncan's saying. It's gotten to the point now where it's much more like conversing with a person. So yeah, not all the time, but certainly from times it'll be like if you ask a question, you'll be like, "Okay, thanks. Can you tell me more about that?" Just as you would if you were, having a conversation, for example. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. I just want to be on the record. I thank ChatGPT all the time. Just so one day when it looks back on this video, it'll be like, save him. He's good.
Yeah. So just as an example, for someone who uses some of the more advanced tools, it actually is quite costly each time you ask it a question and get a response. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's actually in your benefit not to thank it because it saves you money or it doesn't use up your credits as much. So,
right.
But there's no cost on being friendly, Duncan.
There actually is on this. So
well, I know technically there is a cost of being friendly, but for all the kids out there, be friendly.
I see the bill. I see the usage. Yeah. It costs money.
Yeah. And I should point out too, Duncan, as kind of the AI architect of our office, still has issues turning his lights off, and the microwave still cuts out the Wi-Fi. But other than that,
Can't win them all.
Yeah. I mean, I used to work at golf courses, and we always used to ask the superintendent, "What does your lawn look like?" He's like, "I have the worst lawn on the block because I don't care when I get home." It's like, oh, okay, makes sense.
It also doesn't help that I live in a house that was built at the turn of the century, so like we have
The opposite of AI house. Yeah.
yeah we don't. It was man-made. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Duncan lives in a man-made house, which is very old school. Yeah. My kind of big story, AI is clearly the big one. But for me, working on the social side of things, the slow decline or apparent decline of X is big news to me. Now, what's weird about it is you see, depending on where you look, the usage, the number of people using X is declining. First of all, I don't know where they're going because there's no giant uptick on Blue Sky or Threads or anything like that. I still find like if I'm looking at footballs or hockey information or scores or whatever, X is still the place I go because that's where I get the best information. Now, I might see an ad come across on X. I'll click, I don't like this ad. And then the next ad I see is the exact same ad. So I think there's definitely some interesting things in the background happening there. But you hear so much about the slow decline of X. And when we work with our clients, I don't think we have a client right now that actually regularly uses X. I think a lot of them have seen what is happening on there and have decided, you know what, it's our best interest if our brand isn't there. So it's interesting there.
Okay. I know.
Yeah. Okay. We have different clients,
though,
obviously.
I think X has always been the place that you go to for like immediate news. Like people seem to go to Twitter or X to just post what's happening. So if there is a big event, people will like usually the information that feeds the articles, the news articles, even the Reddit posts. Usually those come from random tweets that people have made. I mean, a good example of this is those drones in New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. Yeah. The big drones.
So that was immediate. Everyone was posting, but they were mostly posting to X first, and then the news organizations took it afterwards. So I still see X having a place. Like I don't really use it. We don't have a lot of advertisers that like to use it because it is kind of a bot infested. What do you want to call that?
Divisive place too. Yeah.
But I do still think that it has a purpose for those sort of immediate, like it's happening now kind of situations. TikTok can kind of do that by people going live, and we've seen that a bit on Facebook with people going live. But for some reason, Twitter still seems to reign supreme in that immediacy problem. An example, ChatGPT went down yesterday, and I was looking for why it wasn't working. And then, of course, on X, people are saying, yeah, it's been down for the last like 15 minutes. And then I noticed that ChatGPT posted on Twitter saying, yeah, we're having an issue. So then the news articles got it. So like I say, it has a purpose. Just don't really know if it has it's more of an alert purpose is probably the way that I would describe it.
Yeah, like a newswire type service. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and again, like if you go on Threads, I actually like the layout of Threads. It's nice and clean. It's easy to use, but the information that I'm looking for a lot of times doesn't really make its way over there. And I'm looking for basic stuff. And then, for example, we've talked about it before, TikTok Notes. It's been testing in Canada, although I think it's starting to roll out more. It's more of an Instagram thing, so it's not a really good replacement. I have Blue Sky on my phone. I actually really like the layout of Blue Sky. But again, the user base is so small that you're not going to get everything you want that you would see over on X. So unless another competitor kind of really rises up, it's going to be there, whether people like it or not. So we shall see where it ends up.
The login process is really rough too. I don't know what they're doing with that. It makes it hard. Every single time I click a link from Reddit that goes to X, it's like log in. It won't even show you the content anymore. Or you used to be able to.
Yeah, you can't even get a preview of it. Yeah. No, kind of stupid. And those drones, I think they're aliens. I'll just throw that out there. In New Jersey,
I think a lot of people are on board with that.
I'm on board.
Well, I do find them all having similar lights to our airplanes, that to me is a little sus. That seems man-made, but we'll see, or we won't. I don't know.
Okay, well, cool. I think if you just had a big enough gun with a huge net, you just shoot it at one of these things and kind of like a fisherman, trap it. That's how they catch big fish, right? well, I'll get down there and solve it. All right, let's move on. Let's get to another big story coming out at the end of last week, although it's been around for over a year at this point. A U.S. appeals court has upheld the law requiring TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance to divest from the platform or face a U.S. ban starting January 19th of 2025. So we're talking weeks at this point. TikTok plans to appeal, and I believe they have now, arguing the ban infringes on free speech and lacks evidence of harm. If enforced, the ban could disrupt the social media landscape, benefiting companies like Meta and YouTube. ByteDance has stated it won't sell TikTok.
And X.
And yeah, Meta, YouTube, lots of other things, and then maybe eventually X. Maybe this is how X turns things around. Yeah, we'll see. ByteDance has stated that it will not sell TikTok, leaving its future in the U.S. and kind of by proxy Canada very uncertain. So we've talked about the TikTok ban numerous times. So instead of talking about it, because we can't predict the future, although I still don't think it's going to happen, let's say it actually did happen. Let's say in a month, although it'll probably drag out longer, let's say by next summer, TikTok is banned in the U.S. and Canada, because we'll probably follow along. How do you see this altering the digital marketing landscape if all of a sudden TikTok just wasn't there? And this, I think, I can't remember a time where a platform that big all of a sudden vanished. Some things kind of squandered over time, but if something just really fell off the face of the earth in Canada and the US, what do you think it would do to the digital marketing landscape? Duncan, what do you think?
I don't think it's going to get banned. I think either the Supreme Court or someone's going to make changes.
Something's going to happen.
I do see a pretty heavy push for it to be banned, driven by the what is it? The government of the Doge, the Doge Department of Government Efficiency. I feel like.
Well, I wonder why. I wonder why there'd be a tie. Strange.
So I think there will be a push. I'm curious what will happen with the Supreme Court, but it does. I think I kind of have to agree with TikTok that it's probably a free speech related thing. If it were to go away, I see a lot. I would suspect that there may be a move by Meta and Google to create a similar creator fund to just basically take all of that content and those content creators, as they say, just move it to their platforms. I don't really think there'd be much impact. I mean, I recognize that TikTok has a lot of tools and filters that make things fun. It actually has a better viewing experience, like the UX is better. But I think and I'm surprised that they haven't really tried to do this yet, or at least talked about it, but if there was a ban, I would immediately see them. It would be literally like Threads. It would just kind of come out of nowhere and be like, yeah, here you go. We made this thing. It's basically a shell of what the original TikTok was, and the goal would simply be to migrate customers from A to B, because there's a lot of money there, a lot of revenue there, a lot of data, which is what they're really after. So we've seen a lot of the cross-posting that's happening from TikTok to Reels to YouTube Shorts. I just see a simple jump to those programs as long as they are simple and easy to use. That I don't see why that wouldn't happen.
I think you bring up a good point about the creator fund, which I hadn't really thought about before. Like, still the barrier to entry to make money on YouTube, their monetization requirements, it's pretty steep. And I mean, especially if you want to do it strictly through shorts, it's borderline not going to happen. Like, you really have to catch lightning in a bottle a few times before it happens. When people monetize on YouTube, they reach that it's generally through longer videos, and then by default they can do other things. But yeah, what if somebody like YouTube Shorts came out and just said, you know what, we're going to lower the requirements to become monetized on our platform. They already have the technology. They already have an algorithm that works. I mean, it's right there. It's already exists.
All they have to do is make a Shorts app that is exclusively for Shorts, and then build in some sort of video creation system. And then I think that would be what you'd end up seeing. I don't think it
and they've got it. They already made shorts. You can make up to 3-minute shorts now too. So it's almost like they're really priming it up.
I feel
But
like
I
they're
think,
waiting
yeah, I
for it, and or maybe part of the reason why they're trying to get it banned because it is so successful. Because you absolutely know that those big corporations have their fingers in politicians' pockets. So I don't know, fingers in their pockets,
hands maybe
dollars
like
in their
yeah,
pockets.
but you'd have to put the hand in to get the dollar out, or put the dollar in. Hands in pockets
With money in the
I would.
hands.
Yeah, so maybe it would be more like hands in wallets, which the wallets are in the pockets. Okay,
Hands
we
in
got you.
wallets work. I like
Good
that.
to them.
Yeah.
Okay, or purses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder if, particularly Meta, has the app built, just waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
And if it goes through, they've got the budget to do it. They've got the budget to develop it. And if it goes through, they can just release the day after or the same day. And if it doesn't, then no one ever has to know.
I was
Yeah,
always
it's
wondering
kinda
what
like-
Google was going to be working on, and then they just released that chip, that new quantum chip, which we thought we wouldn't have for a while. So that's
Sure.
well, now we know what Google has been working on, and we got Meta working on their. Are they still doing Meta Quest? I think they're still doing Meta Quest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 3S is the most recent one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I would fall off my chair if YouTube finally figured out social media. Like if they spun shorts off and it became the next TikTok, I don't know what I would do. They fail so hard on social media every time. Imagine if TikTok went away and it just completely fell on their laps and they're like, we have shorts, spin it off separately. Kind of, Ian, you were talking about with Instagram having something in the mix. Maybe they spin reels off separately, or maybe they make it a more prominent part of the Instagram experience, where maybe when you get into Instagram, it's reels are first.
Yeah.
Hey guys, remember Threads? We're back.
Hey guys, over here. We've had this thing for a couple of years now. Yeah. So we'll wait and see. I think we're somewhat in agreement that this probably won't get banned. I think the other thing you could see is there might be a push for people to go a little more underground with their social. Between if they're just communicating with a small group of people, maybe they just move to a platform where they don't need to be seen by the world. With more requests for privacy, etc., do they push to a more underground platform? Does somehow TikTok still exist, but you have to use a VPN to get it, and it still is a thing, something along those lines. But I could see a lot of people just saying, you know what, I don't want to be heavily advertised to. I don't want people to know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go underground with my group of friends on a different platform, and that's just where we're WhatsApp or whatever. We're just going to live there. I could see that happening too. So
you can also see
that
a
might
lot
happen anyways.
A lot of creators becoming unemployed and having to go make money the real way again. Because a lot of people use those platforms to promote sales of whatever they're trying to sell, and they have a pretty big following from it. So, I mean, you're right that some will have to likely change platforms or find a way to survive. But I don't know. It could actually impact the workforce in a weird way because it takes away a lot of people's ability to make money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Krispy Kreme opening here in Edmonton, they obviously had a media influencer event because last week everybody in town knew Krispy Kreme was going to open next week because it was everywhere. Every person with any sort of social influence in Edmonton was at Krispy Kreme. And we weren't because it wasn't open. So now we can go and stand in line like everybody else if we're suckers. Cool. So we'll wait and see. It's odd too. Like January is coming so quickly. Like, are they going to just turn the faucet off in the middle of January? Like, there's other things in the States going on in January that they'll have to worry about first. So we'll see. Have you guys done your Christmas shopping? You all done? Duncan, you mentioned you've got a bunch of gifts around your feet because you don't have a tree up because you're going to Mexico. You got all the shopping done?
I'd say for the most part, there's a couple of small things I still have to get, but everything's kind of purchased. Yes.
Cool. Ian, you got it all
and
wrapped
a lot of it's wrapped.
Wow.
I am very close to starting. So.
Okay. Okay. So,
my MO is like you wait for Black Friday and then you just buy it all.
Yeah. Ian, it would be safe to say you have a concept of a plan of shopping? You don't have the plan.
I understand the concept of shopping. Yes.
Okay. Understand the concept of calendars and shopping
and planning.
Yeah.
And planning.
We have Amazon Prime. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, let's put on our pretend caps for a second. Pretend cap on. Let's pretend you work at Meta and you've selected Mark Zuckerberg for the annual Secret Santa. Now, first of all, there's a 0% chance he would participate in Secret Santa at Meta. I'm assuming. But let's say he was, and you drew the name. It's like, oh, I got Zuck. What are we supposed to do here? What would you buy him? And I'm looking for wrong answers only. Ian, what would you buy Zuck? A guy that could have everything. I don't know if he has everything. Sure. What would you be buying him as a Christmas gift for Secret Santa at Meta?
Well, my first thought was some Meta Ray-Bans, because I think he might like those. But
we already have
a bit more. Exactly. That's the downside of that gift. He already has them. So I thought a bit harder, and I decided I would get him a subscription to AdBlock Plus, because I feel like when Zuck is scrolling Facebook, he doesn't want to be interrupted by ads. He just wants to see the content.
Help him out.
Yeah. So I thought he likes us to see the ads, but I think he would not be so keen himself. So
yeah, he'd be like, no bueno on ads for me. I'm Zuck.
1 year subscription, that's all he gets.
And then if you draw his name next year, you could just re-up the subscription and you're covered again.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's a great, because I don't want his Meta experience to be ruined.
No.
Like, he's working on important things. We want to make sure he's got the ship going in the right direction.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I like that. And I think he would appreciate that too. He would give you a high five and then put his hands back in his hoodie pockets. And although apparently hoodies aren't necessarily a big thing anymore, right? He's upgrading.
He is.
Yeah. Good. Duncan, you got Zuck in the Secret Santa. What are you going to get for him?
There's probably some jokes here about like a support system, because Facebook doesn't have good support. But I think the answer that I'm going to go with is canned goods. And
what would he need canned goods for?
I think haggis should definitely be included, but
yes, a lot of haggis.
Since I get to control the canned goods, it wouldn't be the best of canned goods, because what I think is really he's making his bunker, as we all know, in Hawaii for some unknown reason, aside from end of the world, which, all the power to him.
He might know something we don't.
Do that, but I think that, if I had one little ounce or one little what's the right word? I can't swear on this, but one final. Here you go, Zuck. I would control at least a little bit of the food that he has to eat in his bunker. And I don't think I would choose the best canned goods out there. And I absolutely think there would be at least one, perhaps two cans of haggis. And then maybe some random things like string beans, sliced beets, and creamed corn, I think, would be the other one.
No cream corn. No cream corn. Yeah. No. You keep, cream corn's great. There will be no cream corn slander on the podcast.
Okay. Well,
I love cream corn.
To each his own, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess. And we don't know. Maybe he hates cream corn.
Maybe he does.
I would accept your cream corn and be like, me, Duncan. Thank you. But I if we think of the worst canned food, haggis, as we now know, number one. Number one. Yeah. Anything to do with beets, Duncan, I'm down with you. Beets, low on my list.
Most of the beets are great, but just like raw beets is... Oh, you know what? Sorry, and just a final gift, a final hurrah to Zuck. I'm going to make sure that he has some SPF 60 in his bunker. Just for a gift that, you absolutely will not need. Yeah. You asked for wrong answers only, so there we go. Because we know he likes his sunscreen.
Would you get him a can opener?
No. You can use his teeth.
Wow. Yeah. Or like no name ravioli. Like not Chef Boyardee, not the good stuff.
You know what? I take that back. I would get him a can opener, but it would be slightly broken and it couldn't open a can.
Wow. Duncan, tell us how you really feel, Duncan. Okay, well, hopefully no one at Meta sees this. Remember the last time you slandered Google and we were worried that we were going to lose Google support? Yeah.
I
Okay,
mean,
well,
let's be honest. Google already lost their support.
okay. And I guess, like, according to you, Meta doesn't have support. So by slandering them, you're not going to lose anything anyways. Yeah.
It's okay.
Nothing
I'll get
to
a new
lose,
agent
only
in
to
2
gain.
weeks, and it doesn't really matter.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. All right. My gift, I think, after watching the Paul Tyson, is it a fight? The Paul Tyson get in the ring and pretend to fight. And believe me, I did my best to try to watch it live on Netflix and eventually just gave up and watched it later. Really pulling for Mike Tyson there, and it did come through. I think I would get Zuck some more jiu-jitsu lessons for this long-awaited cage match with Elon. And I don't think it's going to actually happen. For a while there, they were kind of going back and forth. I think Zuck was chirping him on Threads and Elon was chirping him on X, so the platforms weren't even meeting. But I think some extra lessons, because I think I would watch that if it was not pay-per-view, if it came out on Netflix again and Netflix figured things out. I think I would watch that, and I think I would be in his corner, and I would get him some lessons to make sure he's up to speed and ready to go. Did you guys watch that Paul Tyson fight or attempt to?
It was on the TV. I think I remember grabbing some beers at a pub and seeing it.
Yeah.
And it was busy because people were there to watch it.
Until it kept freezing, and then it's like, oh, we got suckered in just like the rest of the world.
Yeah,
the
Netflix
bar was
Live.
happy. Yeah.
I was at a friend's house and there was, I think, 6 or 7 of us all watching it on someone's phone because you
can cast your phone to a TV, right?
It wasn't working for some reason. It wasn't able to cast it. But yeah, because we did try. That was the original setup we had, and then it didn't work. So I think you can cast not from Netflix, but not when it's live. I think that was the situation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
Well, the good news is we didn't miss anything.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was. And I think we all grew up kind of in the Mike Tyson Punch-Out era. So I think I'm assuming I know who we were all pulling for. But,
the ear-eating one, yeah.
Yes. We were cheering for the one person on there that had eaten an ear before.
Chewed. I guess he chewed. He bit. He bit. He didn't chew it.
I don't think he ate it.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
That's not
let's move away from this where Duncan has slandered cream corn, Facebook customer service, and
Zuck.
in a roundabout way, Mike Tyson's ear biting. And we'll move on to something that we haven't done in a long time. Lucky for us, the Canada Post strike hasn't impacted our mailbag. I managed to get some letters through, I don't know, some sort of secret back channel, but a couple letters showed up in my mailbox from Hector in Tucson. Maybe he hand delivered them, I'm not sure. Yeah. And he writes here, hey guys, my boss has made me the AI expert at work. Well, congrats on that, Hector. Big accomplishment. And I'm not really sure where to start, which doesn't sound like an AI expert at the least. Can you give me an example of an AI-powered workflow that could help me onboard new clients at our small marketing agency? So, Duncan, I'm going to go to you for the answer here because you are our AI architect here at Strong Coffee. A few things of note inside of Hector's letter here. First of all, being called the AI expert and he doesn't really know what he's doing. Probably happening a lot in different businesses around the world right now. Also see that Hector is also now working at a marketing agency, so a bit of a competitor of ours now, which we welcome it, Hector. We're here to help. And good to see that he's back too. Good to see that he's back. Hope he has a great holiday season as well. So, Duncan, this is something that I know I was doing some teaching this month and last month and had a lot of questions about AI and people just saying, well, like, I don't even know where to start. Like, do I just type stuff in GPT and it does stuff? So I know you've been working kind of in the background at our agency trying to get some different workflows in place. And I think that's a great place to start for people is understanding how to build these workflows. Yahoo Pipes 5.0 kind of idea. So maybe talk a little bit about an AI powered workflow that somebody like Hector could start, or maybe something you've been working on, a simple one that to kind of get people's minds going as to what could happen.
Sure. So everyone knows the basic ChatGPT box where you just go and type and ask it a question. And this is where I think there's a lot of confusion, is people are like, well, yeah, I can use it to ask a question and I can get it to, write a piece of content or write some copy for me. But that's kind of the extent to which I can use it. But there's actually like two parts to ChatGPT. There's the one that you can play around with, which is pretty advanced. And it's actually I'd say one of the more advanced, just out of the box tools that you can get if you pay for the subscription. But there's also something called Playground, where you more or less build your own GPTs. Now this is where there's a lot of power, because you can kind of customize the message that you're giving it, and then you can also customize the output that you get back. So an example of how you can kind of use this for onboarding. Well, we've done this actually. So if you build a Google form that asks sort of the series of onboarding questions that your agency would always ask a client when you're onboarding them, most marketers now can probably do this by memory. They kind of go through, what is your audience? What is your business? What are you trying to sell? Like, those questions are all pretty repetitive. You know what you're going to ask the client, but you could set up an automation where, okay, you're talking to the client, you're meeting with them, and you're literally just filling out a form that you've already built that has all these questions set up. You ask them for their business name, you ask them for their email, the client contact name, you ask them for, details about their website, what the business is, what kind of, voice or tone they want, whatever that may be. You go down the list of all the marketing things, ask them about their audience, geographics, etc., where they want to target things. That could trigger multiple different automations with these little custom GPTs that you made. So I know this is still sounding a little complicated, but what you can effectively do is filling out this one form could then, build a workflow where you have a client folder in Google Drive that has, this is the client summary. This is some copy ideas based on how they wanted the tone written and what they're trying to sell. Keyword ideas, even keyword research can be automated so that it all gets sent to the same Google Drive folder. You can have their email and contact information sent to a CRM. So as you fill out this form, you can kind of have these GPTs set up to use the information to create prompts for custom GPTs that have been told to do certain things. And that could be to write keywords, write copy, write a client summary, come up with marketing strategies. Like, you can do all of these things and then have them either fed to your inbox, a Google Drive folder, or both, all from literally filling out a form. And again, it is a little complicated to set up, but once it's set up, it's automatic, it's automated, and it's using ChatGPT in ways that normally someone would have to manually enter in all this stuff and ask it these questions. But once you set up the automations, you literally have all this information just being sent immediately upon submit of that Google form, and you can have it do incredible things that you normally would have to either do manually or set up, just like linking products together, like MailChimp or whatever it may be. But it does it all by itself, and that's where I see a lot of power with this. Is you can really use your imagination on how you work with customers and what services you can provide to simplify their lives, but also simplify your life to build these. What's the right word? Simplify their life, building the services out for your clients. So sometimes I find that, you go through the same process and you forget something. This basically means that you won't forget it because you've built the framework already. Mm-hmm. And that's what I kind of really like about it. And that's what I would recommend doing for an onboarding, is build a form, set up some automations behind it, and, send their emails, understand what kind of content they want, add them to your e-news, send them back response emails. Like, there's so many different things you can do with it depending on your business model and what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things about this and the workflows that you've been building, it's not like, people think, oh, now that AI is here, all you're going to do is you're just going to give me a bunch of AI generated content and images and it's going to just come out of a robot and everything's done. This is more getting rid of the boring stuff so you can do the fun and interesting stuff. So to your point, in the time it would take for you to conclude an onboarding meeting, and whether it's in person or through Google or Zoom or what have you, by the time you end that, within these folders or within Teamwork, the management system we use, or wherever it might be, all that information has already been parsed and organized so you can get back to your desk, and it's kind of like it just saved you an hour's worth of taking all the information you got from a meeting and dropping it where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And there's hours saved right there. Right. So now all of a sudden that hour, now you can actually use that hour to, let's start thinking about a campaign idea, or let's start using some of the prompts that we've been given ideas. Let's start building those out. So it's very much taking that boring stuff out.
The cool thing is you can also set up that. So you have all this information about the client. You can even guide it to come up with campaign ideas. You can guide it to come up with a strategy, even if you don't end up using the strategy, or even using parts of it. But depending on what you wanted to do, I guess the world's your oyster is my point. So sometimes it's, create ad copy and come up with keywords. That's easy. But what about coming up with a overarching campaign strategy, or coming up with 10 different creative ideas that would fit this niche? Like, you could have it do this all by itself. It could come up with 10 blog posts if you wanted to. You can literally, it's like, think of it kind of like a flower, or almost like a fractal. Your imagination on what you want to do with this client is your only limiting factor. You can do so many different things that add value. And then it is, like I say, it's pretty automatic. We're using it in a lot of different ways to solve problems and make things simpler, but also adding value to our clients. But the onboarding thing is mostly just adding value to our ability to provide services, and also, setting up our CRM. It could do invoicing. It could do a lot of different things. It's quite cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And allowing us to do the stuff we really enjoy doing. That's the big thing for me. And I think when people say, well, is it going to take away jobs, etc.? No, it's just going to allow us to, like you said, your imagination, you can actually do more of that fun, creative stuff, because so many of the other things have been taken care of. So
I do think it will be taken care of.
Well, hopefully not our jobs.
I don't know if you guys have seen it. I know we're probably way over time, but there's posters up right now up in San Francisco and various other places about it's an AI. They're basically saying that humans only want to work 8 hours. So you use a robot instead, and it'll work whenever you want it to work. We're starting to see this shift. I actually just saw the posters today, but it was like, your AI assistant doesn't work a 9 to 5. And so we're starting to see the limitations of humans be positioned as a negative for workflow and getting work done, which I find an interesting shift. It doesn't necessarily mean people will lose their job. It simply means that there may not be hiring, which is why I think we're kind of seeing a lot of issues with people coming out of school and not getting hired, is because this tool can basically do a lot of that legwork and heavy lifting, which is unfortunate for that generation for sure.
And perhaps the jobs that are really required right now, there isn't training available for those people to, you're coming out now with a skill set that maybe isn't as required as other skill sets, where these tools are changing what we need to do on our ends to get them to work. So lots to think about there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it will perhaps make us as a population and a society reevaluate what humans are actually good at. Like when Henry Ford brought out the Model T, it was completely built by humans, because that was not because humans are great at building cars, but because that was your option. And now cars are built through massive factories that are 99% done by robots and machines and whatnot. And it makes you sort of think, well, in the past, what jobs have fallen to humans just because that's the only way to do them. And now there's bound to be parts of every job that an AI or a robot or something like that is going to be better than a human at, and there are going to be elements that humans are better than robots at. So
think of how far we've come in about 2-3 years with AI.
Absolutely.
Like in 10 years, it's going to fundamentally transform
different world
in general.
Just make sure you're kind to your tools. Then that's the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway I got from this was say thank you to ChatGPT. And I really do want a robot that can walk around like Rosie the robot from the Jetsons. That'd be fantastic. That's AI right there. Because she had a heart too.
Tesla come out with those robots? They had a video, and then there was like the whole thing about people being actually in those robots. Like wasn't real.
It was, I think, at the original unveiling event. Yeah, it was just a guy in a suit because they obviously didn't have any prototypes at the time. So it was like
classic.
The robot dogs scare me. The ones what is it, the Boston Dynamics or whatever they are, where they're jumping on things. Not sure about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one that had the gun attached to it. The robot dog with the gun.
Oh, I wouldn't want one of those.
I think they're more for bombs. But anyways,
okay.
It's a small jump,
Guys, we covered a lot of ground today. This is. I'm looking at the timer. This is our longest strong coffee drip of all time.
A lot of this one's getting cut though, Brian.
Yeah, so we're going to cut this down to about 10 minutes of usable stuff where we're not slandering somebody or talking about robot dogs with guns on their backs. And we will be back for one more episode before we break to enjoy some holiday cheer. Thanks to Ian. Thanks to Duncan. Duncan, good to see you for one last time this year.
Good to see you too.
So we'll have one more before we wrap up for the year next week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of the week, guys. Now let's get back to work. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you soon.
Bye-bye.